Okay. Okay. We are starting now. Thank God we have a good we have a good group of people sort of jumping in on the class. So this I've decided to tackle Jacob's ladder. Right? It's a term all by itself in English. It features in this week's Parsha. And if I asked you, okay, what's the meaning of Jacob's ladder, you would say exactly the answer I was hoping for. Silence, dumbfounded. Like, what? So this is
It's a dream.
that's not an interpretation. That's what it says in the Chumash, right? Vayachalom, and he dreamed. V'hinei sulam mutzav arza. Right? We're gonna. So the angels are going. Okay, that's also basic text. So that's good. We okay. So here's what we're gonna do. The first thing we're gonna do is just look at our basic text. Why we're not getting to basic text, I don't know, but okay, hold on. All right. Okay, now we're where we need to. It says Vayachalom, and he had a dream. V'hinei sulam mutzav arza, and behold, there is a well, I'm going to go to the English. Well, I read the Hebrew because I think Hebrew is worth knowing. Vayachalom v'hinei sulam mutzav arza v'rosho magia shamayma. V'hinei malachei Elohim olim v'yorodim bo. So this is the first statement. I'm just going to translate it here. I have it on full translation on the next page. Vayachalom, and he had a dream, and behold, there was a sulam. It's hard. I'm going to translate sulam as ladder. I took this translation from Sefaria. They said it's a stairwell. Okay, we will get to the origin of the word sulam. Just so you know, if you look from the beginning of Bereshit to the end of Tanakh, the word sulam appears exactly once.
Ladder.
Steps.
You have been colored by your modern Hebrew. Like I said, the word appears how many times in Tanakh?
Once.
Once. It only appears once. So you cannot tell me exactly that it's a staircase. It's not a staircase, and it is a ladder. It is a ladder, and it could be a staircase. We don't know because it only appears in one place. It's not as if there's a verse somewhere which says, and behold, there was a fire, and there was someone in the second floor, and they took the sulam off the truck, and they brought it to the window, right? So we don't have such a reference to tell us what sulam means. So we are trying to work with that term. Okay, so here the next thing I want us to do, I'm just going to go through the English so that we get a full perspective of what is said in this whole area, because elements of all of these points, the post-dream reaction, are all going to factor into how we interpret this idea of the sulam, of the ladder / staircase of Yaakov. He had a dream. A stairway was set on the ground, and its top reached to the sky. And messengers of God, angels of God, were going up and down it. And standing beside him was Hashem, who said, I am Hashem, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. The ground on which you are lying, I will assign to you and to your offspring. Your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. All the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you and your descendants. Remember, I am with you. I will protect you wherever you go, and will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely Hashem is present in this place, and I did not know it. Shaken, he said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. And this is the gateway to heaven. So this is this is just the basic text that we can lay this out. We're going to try and do a couple of things here. And I'm going to take, pardon the term, maybe an unorthodox approach. We're going to look at both classical Mefarshim We're going to look at some modern analysis, some sort of linguistic analysis that will help us understand this in perhaps the literary context and maybe in the ancient context. Although I will tell you, there's a lot of discussion that maybe the ziggurat was an inspiration for the ladder of Jacob. I decided to completely abandon that. If you want to one day go and investigate that idea, you are certainly welcome to do so. But I'm letting you know that methodologically I pushed to the side of the table. I had enough to fill more than an hour, so I'm just going to go with what I have. But we're going to look at both mainly Renaissance art, some modern Israeli art, all on the subject of Jacob's ladder. So, where do we start? We start with this ladder of the Venice school. It has a very dramatic effect. This is a fresco, obviously not produced by a Jewish artist, but it does have something which I think lends itself to the interpretation here. If you look at this particular image, you will see at the very bottom, you have Jacob literally on a stone. And as you ascend to the top of the stairs, you will see that the elements become more and more ethereal, more and more spiritual. You can call it not a Jewish version because there is someone sitting up at the top. If you see a whole human body sitting up at the top, you will know automatically this is Christian art. Jews never put, they sometimes put we'll look at this. They sometimes put a face up at the top of the ladder. This is a very important question, but you'll never see God depicted fully at the top of one. But I wanted to show you at least one which I thought was representative of a sort of a school of thought that this ladder is going to represent a transition between the physical and the spiritual. That is, in fact, a very typical interpretation of Jacob's ladder, from the concrete to the spiritual. Now, one of the things that is pointed out is that this is what's happening here in well, maybe I'll ask you, what's happening here in the life of Jacob? Where are we in his moment in time? What just happened to him?
He just had an encounter with Hashem and the messenger.
No. Before he had take me back, Annie. Before he had the encounter with Hashem.
Well,
Why did he leave?
Because his mom said his brother was coming to kill him.
Right. Well, his brother did say he was coming to kill him. His brother said it to himself, Belibo. His mother maybe prophetically knew that. Maybe he didn't say it so quietly to his own heart. Who knows? But Rivka overhears, however, that Esav is going to kill him. He got a blessing, right? So this is a big challenge for him. He's got to leave. He's got to find a wife. He has got to build his family, and he has got to get out of danger. And so he's leaving, and he's on his path. And travelers alone are always in danger. And Yaakov is traveling alone, and he is alone at night, and he reaches for a stone as his pillow, right? Now, one of the things that we're going to see here, and this is pointed out by Yitzchak Peleg, who's an Israeli Bible scholar, and he makes the claim that the ladder is very important because the ladder represents Jacob on a journey. Mm-hmm. And the evidence for this is, it says, V'hinei anochi imach ushmartichi b'chol asher telech. God promises, he says, I am with you and will guard you b'chol asher telech, everywhere you go. And he tells us that if you look at the Targum Shivim, the Septuagint, you will find that it inserts the word derech. Derech means a way. So, right, from Shema, uvalech techa v'derech, when you speak Shema as you go on your way. So derech, okay, yeah, path away, yeah, either way, right? Yes, synonyms, right? There, it is your journey. Robin's definition is a good one. It's your path. the journey that you take. It is the where your footsteps lead, right? And he says, "Hinei anochi imach u'shmarticha b'chol asher telech." And everywhere that you go, everywhere that you go. Now, even if the word derech is not there, right, which it's not in our chumashim, the intent of derech is there. B'chol asher telech, everywhere you will go. And again, when Yaakov wakes up, it says, "Vayidor Yaakov neder lemor." Yaakov makes a vow, and he says, "Im yeh Elohim imadi," if God will be with me, ushmarani baderech, on the path, on the journey that I'm going to take, sha'anochi holech, where I'm walking, v'natan li lechem lachol v'eged levosh. He gives me bread to eat and clothes to wear. V'shavti b'shalom el beit avi, and I return to my father's house. Then again, we have this implied pathway that he's going to take.
A question?
Yes.
Why is the ladder representing the path?
Why is it?
Why does the ladder?
I didn't yet say that the ladder is representing a path, but it's good that you see that, because I think that that's going to be a very important question here. What is crucial at this moment that we see is that Yaakov is in a transition. He is going to be on a way, and we can see in a sense Yaakov on the ladder is going to allow us to see potentially Yaakov on two planes. He has a terrestrial journey, and he has perhaps also a spiritual journey. And the ladder may represent his own transformation. Here, this is a 19th century painter, Michael Lucas. This is one of my favorite versions of this, because I don't know if you can see it well here, but you can see that the angel that is going up and down actually looks like Yaakov. You can see that it starts with a very earthly Yaakov, and it transitions to a more and more transparent Yaakov, right? Presumably that's the more spiritual. Rachel Elior actually has a very good definition of spirituality. It's a word that I've struggled with my whole life, and she says that in Hebrew, spirituality is ruchniut. And ruchniut comes from ruach. Ruach is the wind, something which is present, but nobody sees wind, right? So the spirituality is the recognition of presence even without being able to see it or to grab it. And so here the sulam is going to represent this connection to a certain kind of spirituality, and it's going to, if you will, recognize that Yaakov is going to go on two different paths. Certainly as one version of this idea. Now, Yitzchak Peleg also makes a very interesting linguistic argument. By the way, this is Rembrandt's sketch of Yaakov. It's a very interesting sketch. This sketch was made for a rabbi, Rabbi Menashe ben Israel. Rembrandt had a very close relationship with a rabbi in Amsterdam named Menashe ben Israel. And Menashe ben Israel was a Kabbalist. He wrote a very important book about the reincarnation of souls. And Rembrandt has a very famous painting called, I think, Belshazzar's Feast, with the writing on the wall, and there's Hebrew in it. Menashe ben Israel is the one who gives him the Hebrew to put in there. But Rembrandt also fashions a number of sketches for a book by Menashe ben Israel. We'll get to that a little bit later, but that's what that particular image is. Back to our regularly scheduled program, which is, what does sulam mean? So sulam, we've said ladder, staircase. The words that are presumed to be close to sulam in terms of their roots, in terms of their shoresh, their etymology, one is salal. Salal, solel, is to pave a pathway, to pave I'm struggling for words for that.
A street, a floor.
Right, exactly. Well, not a floor, but like a sidewalk, right?
Yeah.
We'll see how that gets used biblically, I promise. It's even on the slide if you can read ahead, but don't. Right? A misilah is a path, right? So we see that those words appear, and this is actually from the Haftorah of Yom Kippur. This is from Yeshayahu. Va'amar solu panu derech harimu michshol miderech ami. God says, build up a highway, clear a road, remove all obstacles for the road of my people. This is the sulam, the mesilah is the road of return. This is in a way, it's a linguistic tie-in to the return of the Jewish people from the same journey, ultimately. The journey of the Jewish people at the time of exile is this journey that goes to the great river valley of Babylon, more or less where, I mean, it's not exactly where Yaakov is going. He's going to Haran. He's not going to Babylon. But the idea is the same, that it is the Tigris-Euphrates river valley culture that he is going out to, and he's going to return to the land of Israel, a tremendous prefiguring of what will be. And in a way, this could be a very powerful image for what the Sulam Yaakov is going to be. There is a reading of the Sulam Yaakov, of the ladder of Yaakov, which is a historical reading. What do I mean by historical reading of the ladder of Yaakov? Rashi has this very funny interpretation. Rashi tells you that the ladder, the angels of the ladder, represent the angels of the different nations. They can go, Babylon goes up 70 rungs and then comes down, right? That's what his interpretation is. He says, unfortunately, he says the one from Rome kept going up and never came down, right? But it is the rise and fall of various nations. If the ladder is the rise and fall of various nations, it is a vision to Yaakov that yes, you are leaving the land of Israel. Yes, you are prefiguring the exile of your future descendants. Yes, you will leave. Yes, it is scary. Yes, you are going to a foreign culture. Yes, Lavan is corrosive. Yes, he's going to threaten your very existence. But guess what? You are going to come back. Right? You will return. No. Okay, so let's separate between various readings of the ladders. So okay, good. So the ladder, let's talk Rashi first. Rashi, in the historical reading of the ladder, sees the angels are not Yaakov going up and down, but the nations of the world, right? It could be the nations of the land of Israel, the nations of outside the land of Israel, the historical nations going up and down. All of that is Rashi. And so there, in that version, Yaakov himself is not necessarily on the ladder. Flipping back, though, when we said this is the journey, right? We don't have a description of Yaakov himself being on the ladder. We have a description, at least in the Tanakh, of the angels going up and down. But it is reflective of a spiritual journey. And we will see that there are classical sources that are going to suggest to us that, in fact, Yaakov is on both ends of the ladder. Give me a few minutes to get to that. Okay. But right now, the ladder represents a path. And this path is a very open metaphor, right? We said that the path could be a historical path. It could be a spiritual path. It could even be a pathway to heaven. All of those things are in play, maybe even overlapping, but the ladder just in a way represents another pathway.
May I ask a question, please?
You certainly may.
What is Rashi talking about when he says there's different angels that accompanied him going to Haran, and they cannot leave Haran, and so they go up and they
Eretz Yisrael, because there are special angels that belong to the land of Israel. And there are other angels that are going to belong outside of the land of Israel. So
So the
If
two
you
kinds of
ask
angels.
me to explain that, which I'm not necessarily an expert at, but I would say that there is a special hashgacha. There's a special sense of God's intervention in the land of Israel. We'll get to that in a minute, the sense of intervention, and that is different in the diaspora, right?
So the
If you want me
kinds
to,
of
you want to explain it differently, I explained it the way Jackie Mason did, right? Jackie Mason explained it like this. He said, nobody ever walks into an alley and is afraid of getting into a fight with a Jew, right? So he says, but you put a uniform on them and you put them in their country, now they're quaking in their boots. So, that's like a little bit of, that's how that works. There's something about the Jews are not tough in Muncie, but they are tough in Metula. So, okay. All right. Now, this is not a picture of Jacob's ladder. This is the picture of Yechezkel's vision of the chariot. But we're going to see that there is a sense that these departures from the land of Israel are an opportunity to talk of the Shekhinah as a fellow traveler. So just for one moment, understanding Yechezkel. Yechezkel lives at a time of the destruction of the first temple. And Yechezkel is seeing the destruction of the first temple from Babylon. And his vision of the chariot is a very powerful vision. It's one where you're supposed to really be an expert to delve into, but it is a sense of the Shekhinah, of God's presence being exiled, departing from the Beit HaMikdash, coming to the Jews in Babylon. The Talmud likes to say that Keshegalta Yisrael, Galta Shechina imahem. When the Jewish people were exiled, God's presence was exiled along with them. There is something about the Shekhinah. If you went to the Jewish history shir on Kabbalah last week, you understand that the Shekhinah becomes very connected with Am Yisrael, and it becomes, in a way, suffers with them. But there is this sense that the Shekhinah departs with the destruction of the temple and the exile of the Jewish people. Now we're going to see how that plays into the idea of this ladder. This, by the way, is a piece of Talmud from Masechet Chulin. Talmud's interpretation of Sulam. It says, Tana, Olin, what are the angels doing going up and down? Olin umistaklin bidiyukno shel mala. They went and looked at the image of the chariot. V'yardin umistaklin bidiyukno shel mata. They were looking then at the image of the lower worlds, right? And what is happening when they see this? You should understand that the image on the top of the chariot, the image of the man on the chariot, is the image of Jacob. Jacob is the face on the chariot. There's a human face on the chariot, and that face is the face of Jacob. So they're going up and down, and they're seeing face of Jacob, the face of real Jacob, and they're going up to the Merkava, to the chariot, and they're seeing the face of heavenly Jacob, or Jacob representing not Jacob the person, but Jacob Beit Yaakov, the house of Jacob, the Knesset Yisrael, the entirety of Israel, right? And they saw they saw that Yaakov was in trouble. Why is he in trouble? Because he's on the border. He's on the handoff between the angels of Israel and the angels outside of Israel, right? V'nei Hashem nitzav alav. In the verses, it says, and behold, it says, V'nei sulam mutzav arza, v'rosho magia shamayma, and there was a ladder that was fixed on the ground, and its head reaches the heaven, u'malachei elokim olim v'yordim bo, and the angels of God go up and down, v'Hashem nitzav alav, and God stood. Alav could mean on it or on Jacob. The Talmud says on Jacob. What's happening? There are angels going up and down. The angels are busy changing the guards. Who's protecting Yaakov? Hashem is protecting Yaakov. Right? That's the way the Talmud's reading it right now. Hashem is nitzav alav. He is literally on Yaakov. right? Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Ilmali Mikra Kotov I Efshir La'omro. Adam Sheminif Abano. If the psukim didn't say it, you couldn't say such a thing, right? Because God doesn't have physicality. God, why would God do this? God has helpers to help him do this. Like a man who fans his son, right? So you thought about, when I've read the entire time I've ever read this pasuk, there's angels going up and down. God is standing at the top of the ladder. The Talmud says, no, maybe not. God is standing next to Yaakov. Alav means on Jacob, not on the ladder. What, though, we want to take away from this, in particular, for me, and especially for the next slide, is to understand that the face of Jacob is at the bottom of the ladder, the face of Jacob is at the top of the ladder. This is the golden Haggadah. This Haggadah, I couldn't get a great image of it, even though this golden Haggadah, this is 1/4 of a page of a Haggadah, which is in the collection of the British Museum. The British Library has this Haggadah. It's supposed to be downloadable. And maybe if someone out there can tell me how to, I didn't have a chance to call the British Library and see if I could figure out how to do this. Because it seems like either the page disappeared or something like that. There's got to be a way to do this. A lot of these kinds of materials are very accessible for research. That's part of the flip side of, if you've stolen the stuff from every culture in the world, you need to make it accessible. So anyway, that's my aside on the British Museum. But if you look, there is a face of Jacob lying at the bottom of the ladder, and there is a face of Jacob at the top of the ladder. So I'm just going to put my cursor here, so you can see that this dual idea. Let me see, I'm going to see if I can get my annotating materials up. There we go. I'm going to try and annotate this just so that I can show you. You can see.
Oh, the one is lying down. He's lying down.
Lying down.
Yeah.
Here is Jacob at the top of the ladder.
Just the head.
This is what I was trying to tell you. This is a Jewish production. This is a 1320. This was produced in 1320. It wasn't taken by the British Museum in 1320. 1320 Spain. So this is contemporary with, maybe a few years after Nachmanides is when this would have been produced. This is clearly somebody who knew the Talmud. This is a depiction of the Talmudic interpretation of this interpretation, right? And so maybe it doesn't put Hashem there. No Jewish artist is going to make a picture of Hashem, Baruch Hashem. This is also how you know that this is not a Christian version. The Christian versions always have some old man, some George Burns with a beard at the top. That's because they don't have a problem making some image of God, right? But we Jews, we don't do that. And so you only see the face of Jacob, and that's the chariot. Okay, so give me just 1 second to erase my annotations here. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So I have a question. What is the role of the Malachim in all this?
Fantastic. If you give me a moment when I get to Ramban, I will have a better ability to say so. I will. Well, here at this point, one thing I can say, I think reasonably well, is that in the Kabbalah there is a strong sense of the interaction between this world and the next world, or this world and the spiritual world. So God's Shefa comes down from the spiritual world to this world, God's radiance or grace, and certainly mediated through various sfirot, through the various modalities of emanation, whether it's chesed, kindness, whether it's gvura, might, etc. And also our tefillot, our prayers, interact with that spiritual realm. And so the angels going up and down may be representative of the interaction between the prayers of Yaakov and the emanations of Hashem. That the angels, if you were, they're a literary device, they're a spiritual vehicle. They are, in the way that blood carries carries oxygen and other nutrients. The angels are, if you will, they're the circulation system of the spiritual world. They're taking things back and forth. And their representation is there to show the connection between the earthly world and the spiritual world. So Asher Weiss writes as follows. He says, Yaakov Avinu zacha shepanav yu chakukim b'sei kisei hakavod. Yaakov said that he merited to have his face inscribed on God's throne of glory. Malachei elyon omdim mishta'im, the angels of above stand and wait. Achu ishtam yoshev olim. This simple man of tents. Klal enu makir et rom arko. He doesn't understand his tremendous worth. B'shem hakadosh Rabbi Shimon me Ostropla Amru. So he quotes this. I'm assuming it's a Makubal. I've never heard of him, but Rav Asher Weiss is good enough for me to rely upon. The Zacha Yaakov uv'cholamo niftacholo arubot hashamayim. That the treasure houses of wisdom are open to Yaakov. V'chasel l'maser merkava. He sees the vision of the chariot. The same thing that Yechezkel saw when the Jews were exiled to Babylon. That's what Yaakov is seeing now. That's what the ladder is. It is this ability to see the spiritual world. V'achar chazon zeh amar. He says achein. These three letters. Aleph, Chet, Nun. Achein. Behold. Yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. Behold, God is in this place. So they do an acrostic. What does Achein stand for? Achein stands for Aryeh, Kruv, and Nesher, right? So it's three animals of the chariot. So he thinks that okay, this is the three animals of this. No, the Kruv is now I'm forgetting what it is, but
it's the Kruvim in the
okay, the angel, right? The
Angel.
angel, right? It's the lion, the angel, and the eagle of the chariot. And
between the two
Nesher,
groups.
Kruv, Yaakov, right? That's what he learns. He says Achein Yesh, right? He says no, it's a cute play on words. It's a cute play on words. But the idea is clear that Yaakov now understands his intimate connection with the spiritual world. In other words, you cannot detach yourself from the spiritual world. Why? Because you are up there on the chariot. You're on the Kisei HaKavod. Your face, you Bnei Israel, right? Now, I would militantly argue that this is not about Yaakov the person, but rather Beit Yaakov. This is the idea of the Jewish people, because otherwise it has much less impact for us, right? This means that you, in your journey, you cannot separate yourself from what's happening in the divine realms. The ladder is that there is no severing the spiritual umbilical cord. There is no sense that the plastic you throw into your personal ocean does not get thrown into the spiritual sea of the divine. It is one system. You are fully connected to it, and the ladder is that on your path you are fully connected to the spiritual realm. To me, that's a very profound version of this ladder. Okay, so as I told you, Rembrandt did an illustration for the Piedra Gloriosa de la Estatua de Nebuchadnezzar. He designed these for Menashe ben Israel in 1655. What is very interesting to me about the version of Rembrandt is, first of all, Rembrandt has Yaakov literally sitting on the ladder, which reinforces the sense of his own journey, which I think in a way resonates with all of us. We all have moments where we feel a little bit more connected to the earth, and some moments we feel a little bit more connected to the realm of heaven. Look at Rembrandt's angels and tell me what you notice about them. I think one's turn, sure. What strikes you about Rembrandt's angels? I don't know if you can see them as well. Yeah, she's smiling. It looks like she's smiling over Yaakov.
Kids on the water?
I thought they were all women.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. They're facial, women's faces.
So, it could be that, the Shekhinah is feminine, that the angels are connected to the Shekhinah. I can't say for sure, and I'm not sure. I need to make a blessing over the Torah and looking at Rembrandt's sketches. But again, this was in conversation with Menashe ben Israel. So I think, it's at least worth looking at. The other thing, which I think is always worth looking at in Rembrandt, is where the light is. And if for Rembrandt, the light is beams from the top, the inspiration comes from the top of the ladder, and the darkness is at the bottom of the ladder. And as you are able to climb the ladder, you are going towards the light. Anyway, Tov. Ibn Ezra. This is Ibn Ezra, and this is, by the way, I have so much fun, by the way, these days, digging into the digital archives of the Bodleian Library, where you can get an original handwritten manuscript of the Ibn Ezra. So I didn't have time to actually find the exact page on the Ibn Ezra, but this is definitely close. This is close to where we are in the Ibn Ezra. But this version of the Ibn Ezra is as follows.
Which library?
The Bodleian Library in Oxford.
Okay.
So the Ibn Ezra reads it as follows. And you have to understand who the Ibn Ezra is, but this will help you appreciate how profound the Ibn Ezra's statement is. The Ibn Ezra is a Pashtan, which means that he is going to be running away from the midrashic interpretations. Ibn Ezra lives in a time when he lived in Arabic Spain, and there was this general feeling that Arabic is the most beautiful language. Arabic is the language of learning. It is the language of the academy. It is the language of science, and it is the most beautiful language, and it's the best way to express anything. And Ibn Ezra is going to say, no. It is not Arabic. It is Hebrew. And I'm going to show you what the Bible means by being a pure Hebrew analyst. And I will tell you, I will only give you what I think is the absolute accurate meaning of each word. Now, this is why you're going to be shocked at what you're going to see that Ibn Ezra says. He says, V'derech sulam liot sema. The sulam, the ladder, is meant to be an image, a sign, right?
Symbol.
Switching of letters, yeah.
Good, symbol. It is a symbol. It is not essential. It is a symbol. Up until now, we've possibly suggested that the sign, that this ladder has been more than a symbol. It has been real. It is just, we don't see the angels. They belong to the Ruchani world. They belong to the spiritual world. So we don't actually see them. But now Yaakov's eyes were opened, and so he can see reality. That is one version of what the ladder is. The Ibn Ezra is not going to go to such an extreme. He's going to say this is a symbolic dream, right? But what's it symbolic of? He says, V'derech sulam liot semel, o al mispar Sinai drashu. What it means is the gematria of semel, which is, somebody help me out here, is 130, is the same as the gematria of Sinai, which is also 130. So there you go. You don't see that every day in the Ibn Ezra, but what he's trying to say is it's revelation. This is the place of revelation. In the Torah, and in Chazal for sure, there's a sense that Sinai, Moriah are the same thing. One of the Midrashim says that Har Moriah, which is the lowest of the mountains that are part of the Jerusalem circle, was actually the tallest. But what happened was they cut it in half, and they moved the top half of it to the desert, and that's where the Torah was given. I'm not sure that this is a geological survey. I am not sure that you need to go and test the rocks in both places. I'm sure there are people who would. But what it's trying to say, I believe, is that the experience of revelation that started at Sinai was also the experience of it was an attempt to encapsulate that moment of revelation, that sense of connection, that sense of divine, bringing the divine into the world. And that's what happens in Yerushalayim. And so where is Yaakov at this moment? So one good estimation is that he is on Mount Moriah. He didn't know, Achein, right? Yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh, God is in this place. And so he comes to that, and he says, Ve'ela hamafarshim lo ra'u nevot Zechariah va'Amos v'Yirmiyah. So Chevelle is one of the early critical commentators on these Mefarshim. So Rabbi Chevelle says what that means is that, Jeremiah has all these interesting metaphors. Jeremiah has he goes to the potter's shed, and Isaiah, he gets naked, and Isaiah has, and Jeremiah, he has to go and write a deed of sale. All of these things are just ways of being very demonstrative. And so he says, Ki kol dvar lo yichad min Hashem, v'divrei mata tluyim be'elyonim. So the things down here are dependent on God. V'ki'ilu sunam b'neim. It's as if there's really a ladder between them. She'alu ha'malachim bo lohodia hadvarim acher she'italchu ba'aretz. Right after the angels walk around the land, they figuratively go up to God and tell God, report on what's happening. They didn't have telephone they didn't have internet to be their metaphor. Messengers were their metaphor. So, we might talk about talking to God like Wi-Fi, but they didn't have Wi-Fi. This was their metaphor for communication. So the idea of angels going up and down is the connection between heaven and earth, that you are not here alone. There is something.
Listening to the
Right.
class, the rabbi.
The class?
Okay. So I'm just gonna, if you have a comment, please don't be afraid to unmute yourself. So this is, now the Ramban is going to take this further. I didn't give you the whole text of the Ramban. The Ramban has a very interesting way of looking at this. The Ramban says that the angels represent hashgacha. They represent God's control of this world. Now, Maimonides believes in God, understands that Hashem creates everything and sets it in motion. That from the moment of creation, the Bilam's donkey was created and waiting for the right moment to pop up, and the 10 plagues were created waiting for the moment to top up. But God did creation and then stopped creating and let the world, he wound the watch and the watch goes, right? Nachmanides is going to say, no. There's no such thing as a blade of grass that pokes its head out of the ground without God willing it to do so. So these malachim, these angels are the sort of the messengers of the will of God for, this pomegranate plant and this wheat plant and et cetera, et cetera. He will say that he also reads that Hashem nitzav alav. No, who does the hashgacha? Who puts his hand on the shoulder of Jacob to guide the path of the Jewish people? That's God himself. The malachim, there are for the Edomites. Malachim, that's for the Chivites. Esav gets malachim. Yaakov gets Hashem by himself. That's Ramban's version of this ladder. The role of that vision is to see that God controls the world. Right? You, Yaakov, are going on this path. You think that you are going to be subject to the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. There are no slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. There's the will of God. Some things are controlled by angels, but you, Yaakov, you are going to be.
Yeah, but the angels are there. It's not like you're saying. Is it? Nachmanides is saying it's a direct connection between you and Hashem.
Because it says,
angels.
right? Because it says, Right, no, but the malach, it says, Malachei Elokim olim v'yordim bo,
Right.
right? V'nei Hashem nitzav alav. If you read, and behold, God is standing alav as on Yaakov, then that, as Ramban does, he says that on Yaakov means God is protecting Yaakov in and out of Israel. So the confusion might be is where is God? If God is on the ladder, then I agree with you. But if God is over Yaakov, then that's how Ramban reads it.
Just trying to figure out the role of the angels then in that vision.
The role of the angels is not every nation in the world merits God's personal attention.
Understand that, but the word malach in the text, there has to be a purpose in that text. It can't be.
I would say, here's what I would say, is that you can't always determine what is the outcome. You know, why is it exactly that the Kurds are such a persecuted people? I don't know. They're governed by the Malachim. Maybe they work in convoluted ways. You know that, but the Jewish people, if you see when Bismarck has to asks when the Kaiser asks Bismarck, give me proof of a miracle, he says, the Jews, my liege, the Jews, right? We are proof of the miracle because we have direct hashgacha. Okay, this is, by the way, a mistake on, I gave you a picture of Radak. Somehow I think I pasted in the wrong text. I'll just tell you what the Radak says. The Radak says that the ladder is going to be symbolic of the Beit HaMikdash, prayer. It is prayer, it is the temple, which is the sort of the key element. Now, this will bring us to another very interesting piece.
So can I say
Yes.
something about the Merkava? Then you cannot compare other because it's something altogether different. The Merkava in Yecheskel, right?
What do you mean by it's altogether different?
I mean, there is no kesher. I mean, the Sulam Yaakov creates a kesher between heaven and earth, but the Merkava is up. It's more of a vision by itself.
No, it's a very integrated system because when Yechezkel sees the vision of the Merkava, he will also invent the idea of Mikdash Ma'at, of the small Mikdash, which becomes the prototype of the synagogue. And so the Shechina, it goes into Galut, but we are not entirely disconnected from the Shechina. So the Merkava gives you the ability to connect to God in the heavenly realm, even though you're not physically in Yerushalayim. I think the Sulam is a less pixelated version of the Merkava, if I had to describe it.
Hey, Rabbi,
Yes.
about the angels, he started, angels are going up first and then coming down. That means that those angels were traveling with Yaakov all the way. They came
Yes. Correct.
That's what Rashi says, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Rashi says.
So-
And they're going up, and the ones that coming down, they're the
Changing of
ones,
the guard. Changing of the
because
guard.
it's like only certain angels, like you said, are the ones looking after Israel.
I appreciate that. So Baruch, I'm just going to put that to the side right now because I want to just get through a couple just other ideas, but exactly how the angels, because it seems clear that the angels of Chutz La'aretz are not, according to the way that Ramban would read it, and Ramban is not forced to read it like Rashi. Ramban seems to believe that it is not the angels who are taking care of Yaakov, it is Hashem. And it might be different from Rashi, but Ramban is allowed to disagree with Rashi.
Yeah, it says that Hashem himself is the one who's looking after the state of Israel. There's no other anybody in another.
Right. I think part of the confusion here, and this is confusion that's happened on a number of levels, is how do you differentiate between the angels of God and God himself, which is not something I'm really prepared to go into at the moment. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask us to leave that for just a moment. But
Okay.
I want to show you this, just how pervasive this image is. So this is a Protestant church. This is the Bath Abbey, and the Bishop of Bath, Oliver King, had a dream. He had a dream that there were angels going up and down the ladder. He made it seem like it was a very original dream. I think it's kind of funny that he thought he was the first guy to have that dream. But I just want to show you that this ladder, the angels going up and down the ladder, appears. It's a little hard to see, but if you look at the two sides of this the west face of the abbey, you'll see there are two ladders, and there are angels going up and down the ladder. Okay, now I want you to know that this is not the idea that the angels going up and down the ladder representing the idea that wherever we are, we have this connection to Hashem, is not uniquely Christian. This is something, this is my own photo. This is the synagogue in Casale Monferrato. Casale Monferrato is about an hour and a half from Milan. It's in Piedmont, and it's a gorgeous synagogue. It's a Baroque synagogue. And you'll see, I took a photograph of this. I could have taken the photograph of the front of Tempio Maggiore in Rome. It says the De Shar HaShamayim. This is the gate of heaven. Because, right, in Italian tradition, that is a very typical thing to put on your synagogue. This is the gate of heaven. When the first time I saw it in Tempio Maggiore, I thought they were crazy. You can see St. Peter's Basilica across the river. You're saying Zeshar Shemaim, this is the gate of heaven? That's Jerusalem. I think I understand a little bit better now. They didn't think about St. Peter's is over there. They said, this is our shul. Wherever our shul is, Zeshar Shemaim. The ladder's here too. Here in Vancouver, in Shara Tzedek, we also have Shara Shemaim. Right? We're a sponsor for our ladder. Okay. So now, okay. Yeah.
When you look at that, when you look at the synagogue, for example, in nature, right? Very, very much that style. So did the exterior on this synagogue, for example, did it look like it?
No, it did not look like this one does not look like the Duomo, but I would not say that it was terribly different from the other buildings in Piedmont. So it is true that in all of the Italian synagogues they hired non-Jewish artists to make them.
Right, and they wanted it to appear.
Yeah, that was the style, right? But clearly the psukim they chose on their own, right? The verse they chose with obviously clear. Okay, I'm gonna too much here, but I wanted to just show you this is very interesting. This is an Israeli artist named Naftali Bezem. Naftali Bezem is a Holocaust survivor whose son died tragically in an accident. Naftali sent him to get some materials for his work, and I think there was an explosion, or maybe I'm not sure it was a terrorist attack, but he died in the explosion. And Naftali Bezem suffered from guilt his whole life, both from the death of his parents and for the death of his son. Now, this I have this entire lecture in a way was inspired by a book that I found in a bookshop. I was waiting for someone. My last trip to Israel. It's called Umanut Kaparshanut. It's called Art as Interpretation, and she has lots of brilliant different kinds of art and helping use it to interpret the Parsha. And she says that this particular image represents, if you look at this is Picasso's Guernica. So he's referencing Picasso's Guernica, and specifically the hands over here are the same kinds of hands that are here in the. What I think is so interesting about this particular version is that here the Sulam Yaakov is a life raft, right? Everything else, in all the other paintings, the Sulam Yaakov, the ladder of Jacob, is this moment of serenity. Angels are so peaceful. The light is shining down, right? Here, there's chaos everywhere, and he's holding onto that ladder. That ladder is his hope. And I think that there's a lot to be said for looking at the ladder in that way. It's a very, the figure himself is in chaos. There is some argument that and I think it's also beautiful interpretation. Look at his left hand. What's on his left hand?
Tefillin.
Right. So there's an interesting idea that, the left hand is holding the tefillin, and that is in a way it's gripping the ladder. Very interesting interpretation.
Is this in Naphtali or in Naphtali's picture? Oh yeah, the stripes of the tefillin. Yeah, okay, slicha. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, you can just show you the stripes of the tefillin where I'm right over there. Okay. So you see that. All right. Yafe. And I have 3 minutes left before I have to start my next class. So I'm just going to show you one last one, and maybe we can see if we can interpret it ourselves. This is maybe one of the most famous ones we've ever seen. This is
Chagall, yeah.
Chagall.
Yeah.
This is Chagall. So what is Chagall telling us about the Sulam Yaakov? What is Chagall telling us about Jacob's ladder?
I don't even see Jacob. Oh, down there on the
it's hard to find Jacob.
On the animal.
Yeah.
And there's a baby there. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, it's not easy to interpret. Maybe I'll leave that. I'm not sure I have a great interpretation of Chagall either. I think the idea is that sometimes the world is dark, and it is the ladder of Yaakov that provides a certain measure of light. There is that. I can't speak biographically about Chagall. I don't really know enough about him to say, but there is in this image a sense of light and hope that comes out of the ladder.